Hey, Madhavi, it is so good to be speaking with you again. I'm excited about all of the things that you have been in development and everything. And all of that said, we know that there have been some struggles along the way, and I'm really, really appreciative to you that you're willing to have this conversation with me today and answer some of the questions that we have collected from my community. So I wanted to say welcome and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
When you were going through some of the device issues, why was that happening? I think a lot of people would be really curious to understand. And maybe it is, if people were going through multiple devices, it might be really insightful for them to understand from your perspective what was going on the other side.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm really sorry that that happened to people, that they have had multiple device failures. And our goal as a company is to really create this great experience where people can improve their skin at home. And so our goal is to, if any of those people reach out to us, we will resolve it, we will make it right. We have had a couple of sort of big things happen in the last year and a half. Part of it is just small business challenges with scale up. So we've switched, for example, where we do our production, we've gone from one process to another. Along the way, I think I've mentioned this before, but a really significant portion of our team are engineers. So when we see something that can get better, we sometimes will immediately go out and try to fix it. And sometimes that results in a secondary challenge or a secondary failure. And then part of it is we've just been growing really rapidly, and which is great for a business, but part of that comes with supply chain shortages. So sometimes we have to buy things from different vendors. Sometimes you have a bad batch of components. A specific example I can give that happened to us recently this year was, it's not that recently, but it feels recent, was we have these things called O-rings that we use to seal, basically seal the device. And they're cut in a very specific way. It's not clear to the naked eye. They're like millimeter differences. And we got a batch from a vendor that was just incorrectly cut. And it's not something that we were able to pick up right away with our current process at the time. And so we had a batch of devices that were impacted from that had leaking. And, that's something that definitely impacted customers. And so when we know things like that happen, we reach out to our customers, we try to get ahead of it, but things do slip through the cracks occasionally. And we've really learned from the experience. So we've implemented a lot more automation and sort of systems in place so that we have really robust end of line testing. We've gone through some of the processes for assembly to make them a lot less prone to error. So we don't have bad units slipping through. And we've managed to dual source all of our componentry. So we don't have situations where we have to suddenly buy a batch of something, in short supply, or slap in a variable component that perhaps will not function the way it was intended. And kind of our way of sort of responding to any challenges people have faced is we've updated a bunch of our policies. So we now have a 2-year warranty. If you've ever bought a droplet at any point in our history and you're having an issue with it, contact us. We'll get you our latest and greatest and get it working. And we want you to be using it and having a really great experience with it. We used to require those sort of updates for people who only had a subscription. That's no longer the case. So if you've ever been a customer, we want you to come back and check us out, try some of our new formulations, and we'll work with you to resolve that.
Since it sounds like the new device, the updated, the most current device is very solid, can you tell me what you would say to someone who went through a few devices? Let's say they went through 3 devices. Right. What would you, and they're like, forget it, at this point, let's say, what would you say to them that is, this device is solid and, give it another go? What is the data that shows, what can you do to assure them that it is now good to go?
It's a good question. So we track all of our failure rates, and we know why things fail. We have asked a lot of our customers when they've had issues to send us videos, because once again, very technical team, and the way our minds work is if we see a problem, we immediately want to jump on it and solve it. And we've removed that policy because we realized in hindsight, and it's really embarrassing, that people felt like we were questioning them, that we were questioning whether they actually had a device issue. And that was not at all the intention. It was literally just us being overzealous and wanting to immediately understand and fix a problem. But we know why things have failed historically. So like that, so information is power, right? So we can avoid making those mistakes going forward. We've created like a really stable process to evaluate all the componentry that comes in. So mishaps we had earlier won't happen again. And I'd say most importantly, we track like how our devices are performing, and we've seen like these new devices are just incredibly stable. We've actually been stealth releasing them for quite some time. So I know we had like a launch for connected droplet. Realistically, like a pretty large cohort of customers, even a month or two prior to that, did receive those units, but they weren't advertised as such. And so we've been tracking that for a while before we really came out with this new device, and we felt confident sort of making those claims, and of course extending the warranty to 2 years.
I have another question about people who went through devices. If they went through a couple devices, and let's say in that process they went through capsules that, maybe they used a capsule or many that they didn't actually get to use the capsule. So they bought the capsules. I know that it's something that I've heard in my Facebook group that, it's not just that the device didn't work. I also feel like I wasted, capsules. So what are you doing to, it sounds like you're doing everything you possibly can to make it right with the device. I mean, frankly, to say to people, it doesn't matter if you're all the way back, we want to make this right, is amazing. And that I applaud you for that a million percent. But there is obviously the capsule situation. They are not cheap. And people, if they've spent, how does that work out in the make it right component?
Yeah, so our policy has always been, if you've wasted capsules because of a device failure, we always replace them. So that would certainly be the case here as well.
Okay, I'm going to read a couple that are verbatim from the Facebook group. This one is, I feel like there is so much unused mist that goes up in the air. Droplet customer service told me that that's by design, but I still feel that it's wasteful. Are you considering a tube or guide to force the product in place on the skin without letting it escape all over?
I think that's a really smart question. One of the challenges, and sorry, this is a bit of a technical answer, but one of the challenges that we have been working on, because we've definitely been exploring the idea of like a nozzle around here, is when you restrict the mist flow, you tend to get a lot more condensation, like it hits the edges and then condenses. And so what we've seen in our tests is when we actually do that, it results in less, it looks like less is kind of escaping, but more is condensing on the sides. So less of it actually gets into your skin or goes where it's intended. So that's why these first few versions don't have that particular component, but it is something that's in very active R&D with us. And I think that's a really smart question.
And if I remember right, you always, or at least from your test and the way that you formulated it, you put enough product in that you were accounting for the mist that's going into the air. And so the idea was, yes, you're going to see the stuff that's going in the air. We've accounted for that. That's by nature of the device. I mean, that's what's going to happen. You are still getting what we wanted to get into your skin. And that's just the way that it's designed. A good analogy, or an analogy, we'll see if it's any good, is if you're using hairspray and you need to, you want to, do your bangs or whatever, you use the amount that you need to get the desired result that you want. There's hairspray that escapes or that's all around you, right, but the efficacy is still exactly what you wanted. And so, and that the idea of the hairspray makers don't make it into one thing that shoots at your, your hair, or else you would end up with a, whatever. It's the entire idea of having something that is propelled into the air. You're going to see some of it around its target.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, here's another one that I'm going to read verbatim, and it is, I feel like the mist strength has changed since I've had my device. Regardless whether it's fully charged or not, I have not used the app to change programs, this person said. Is this a sign that my droplet is wearing out or that I have a defective device?
So there is a little bit of a break-in period with piezoelectric transducers, which is the element that aerosolizes the fluid in there. And our software or firmware on the device has taken all of that into account. That being said, if you're seeing a really significant change in your mist speed, please contact our customer care team and we'll take a look into that for you.
I'm just going to go through relatively rapid fire and we're going to read directly from the Facebook group.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the question. Why does my new replacement droplet have a constant spray? Seems like the mist doesn't last as long with this.
It's a good question. So when we first released Droplet, we designed it with 3 15-second cycles. And that was based on some of our beta testing. And that beta testing had been done during COVID. So they were pretty small cohorts. Once we were in the market for a while, a lot of people said that they didn't like that experience. They preferred that you could just turn it on and turn it off. And so we did a bunch of surveys and we found out that most people wanted to control it that way. And we updated it. With the app, you can change modes, you can change spray behavior. So we are going to be re-releasing the 3 15-second cycle mode onto the app. So for people who want that, they can pair it and go back to the original. But we really did this because this was the one most of our users seem to prefer.
It's funny because I have forever turned it off and turn it on, turn it off and turn it on. And just even when it was the 3 15-second cycles, and so I actually appreciate that it's all one. I like that. But, people are creatures of habit. And if that's how they had it before and they liked it, it's super cool that they'll be able to go back and do it the way that they used to and just use it the way that they want. Next question is, can you talk about how you're sure the product is penetrating deeply? Do you do something like OneSkin where you're looking at penetration depth in human skin equivalents?
So yes. And in human ex vivo human skin. So we take, skin that was removed during surgeries or during other medical procedures. So totally consenting donors. And we look at delivery depth and penetration with that. And we work with really large molecules. So as you may recall, and I think OneSkin may have a similar background, like we started off as a biotechnology company. So all of our early data around penetration has been done in human skin equivalents or directly into human skin.
Okay, next question is, my droplet leaks when I hold it other than parallel to the floor. Is it defective?
That's certainly an annoying experience, but it's not defective. And it's because your device is gravity fed. So sometimes if it's held this way and fluid is coming out of the side, you're going to get a little bit of dribble down here. We actually, once again, via the app, will be releasing a mode. And I think it'll be mid next week when it comes out, but it'll be like a slider bar that lets you decrease the dribbling of the device. And so basically what causes dribbling is the flow rate. And the thing to recognize is because we're running fluids through electronics, when we do our final calibration at our facility, it's done in Boston in a controlled environment at sea level. And if you're going to ship those devices anywhere else and you have more humidity or you're in a mountain, right? You're not at sea level, that calibration may not be optimized to you. And that's a big part of what the app lets you do. You can say, well, it dribbles too much for me, or it flows through too fast, or it flows too slow, and I want to change it and optimize it. And we're giving you that capability.
Okay, this question's interesting. If I use the collagen capsule on my legs, will it absorb to the same depths as on my face?
So it will absorb, but you're probably not as much as your face, because the skin on your face is a little bit thinner and a little bit more permeable than your leg skin.
Okay, I use the eye program on the app for my entire face. It's a more intense application, which I like. Is that effective to do the full face that way?
You are definitely not the only person who does it that way. Yes, it's something that a lot of people view as like a hack, and yeah, it's a very popular mode for that.
Okay, will the droplet really help with skin laxity / sagging?
It depends on where that laxity and sagging are coming from. So if you think about like the underlying architecture, like the muscle loss in the face, Droplet's not designed to treat that. That's something where you maybe would use like an office sort of treatment to elevate those muscles. But if you're seeing like crepey skin and like skin elasticity, then Droplet would be able to treat that. And I would specifically recommend our collagen capsules as probably the best one that was really designed for that challenge. Although I feel as though a lot of customers lately have been contacting us who are on Radiant Detox
Mhm.
and have been seeing really fantastic results with that. So it would be one or the other.
I think that it's interesting. I think people mistake sagging sometimes for, or laxity for crepey skin or even dehydration.
Oh
Sometimes
yeah.
you can look, you can really look a certain way merely because you're dehydrated. Or so I do think that when it is true laxity, like you said, in any of the underlying, your fat or your muscle or things like that. But if it is truly the skin that's being affected, then droplet can affect that because it's the skin. I think that that's
Exactly.
kind of, yeah. Okay. That makes complete sense to me. Okay. Next question is, after each use, there is some liquid left in the unit, however much I run it. I'm worried about it for the growth factor purposes, and worried about pushing the leftover cleaning solution to my face.
That's really interesting. If you're holding it like horizontally and it's gravity fed, I'm surprised that there's a lot of fluid left. That being said, there's definitely no safety concerns. So our cleaning solution, for example, contains the same preservative system that we use in our formulations, and it's completely fine for your skin. There's no alcohol in there or anything that will cause skin damage. So if a little bit of that gets sprayed on you, you're fine. But I am surprised to hear that there's like leftover fluid at the
Yeah,
end
and
of it.
I've never noticed leftover fluid in mine. So what I would say to this person is, if you have a lot of leftover fluid, maybe contact your customer service.
We have full-time estheticians on our team that will talk to you about your skincare routine.
Mhm.
They'll make recommendations for Droplet, and that can walk you through on video, like how to best use it, how to clean your device, how to make sure it's empty. So if you're a customer, it's a totally free service. We offer it, so come check it out if you have specific questions.
Absolutely. That's such a great resource. I mean, I just think about, as an esthetician, how valuable that's an amazing free resource that you're offering. And I do think that people like that would be a great way to just do a quick troubleshooting to ensure that you're using it exactly how you should. Okay, the next question is, are the machines designed to completely empty the capsule? Is it normal to have to rerun the cycle several times?
We overfill our capsules, and we do that intentionally. And it was meant to be a little bonus for our users. Like, you can do your whole face, and then you can do your neck or décolleté or hands. So yes, they're overfilled intentionally, and they probably won't empty on a single run. That being said, our different formulations have slightly different viscosities, and that does change the emptying time. So you might notice, for example, that your device runs a little bit longer on retinol than it does on glycolic.
This is a really big question, and it's only like 6 words, and it is, what is their quality control process?
It's a good question. So we have multiple steps to that. We have incoming inventory that is like, we have a quality control team that assesses like incoming components. As you might recall, our devices are made in Boston. So we do sort of see final finished goods at this point. So we have product that comes in, it gets inspected, they get approved or not approved and sent back, and we request a new version of it. And then it goes to our manufacturer. They have like multiple step processes in place during assembly to just make sure that it's either visually looking the way it's supposed to, or if it's an electronic component like the PCB, we have custom firmware that we use to test it to make sure all of our circuit boards are performing. And then it goes through a final quality process where we actually run fluid through it and calibrate it. So it's a multiple step process. And then the finished product comes back to us. We do the last round of testing. We put the sleeves on it to get it to be the right color, seal them, put them in boxes, and ship them out to customers.
And then the capsules go through quality control as well, right?
They do. Yeah. So one of the big updates actually has been, I think I might have talked a little bit about this before, but we have robots that we've built that fill and seal capsules. So what was like a semi-manual process now is fully automated. And the beauty of it is there are sensors in the machine that are able to detect whether the capsules are filled. There's like an accept bin for all the good capsules that come out, and then there's a reject bin for the ones that maybe have an air bubble or something. And so the other thing with the filling is the machine is set to our standard volume, which is like 0.8 mils per capsule, but the machine has a minimum. So it's never going to be below 0.8 mils, but it might be slightly above. So there is a little bit of overfilling that happens at different levels in different capsules.
Okay. Okay, next question is, I bought my droplet at the end of 2021. The machine product did not work for me. I would like to know if they could offer the option to replace the product or suggest something we can do to use the machine. Right now, this is sitting in my closet. I would have loved for this to work for me.
Yeah, if you bought Droplet and it didn't work for you for whatever reason, please reach out to our customer care team. We have new products now, so perhaps one of our new formulations will be a better fit. And if you had an issue with your device, we will replace it.
Okay, we are going to move on to current products, some, fun updates, things like that. I have questions that I have actually written down, so forgive me again. I don't want to miss anything. I've been preparing like crazy for this because I have so many questions that I know other people have as well. So the first question that I do have for you is about growth factors. And I want you to share with us what went into bringing the growth factors to market. If you could just give us the rundown on that, we would love to hear the behind the scenes details.
Yeah, I'm excited to. So growth factors are a really, really cool skincare ingredient. And I'd worked with them before Droplet. So growth factors, just for people who don't know, right, they're hormones or proteins that basically act as the instructions for cells. So they will tell cells to do things. They'll tell stem cells to differentiate. They'll basically tell senescent cells or cells that are old or aged to kind of, they'll help remove them. And they play a huge role in aging. And they're just this incredible class of potential therapeutics for things like, spinal cord injury, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and have been kind of touted in the academic literature for quite some time as this amazing, like regenerative anti-aging class of proteins. So when we were thinking about what product we'd want to put out next, it just made a lot of sense for us, both because we had worked with them personally and had kind of seen the impact that they have on cells and tissues ex vivo or in medical settings, and and just the fact that they're very, very cool. So when we had worked with them, like when I'd worked with them in a laboratory setting, we treated the stuff like it was liquid gold. It was $17 per milliliter to get the really high quality stuff. So 1 liter of that, if you're a grad student, that's basically your annual salary. And you wait for it to come in, you aliquot it. So you basically distribute it into very tiny volumes and you put it in the -20 or the -80 for storage. And so we had always treated it like this really delicate ingredient. And that's because these proteins are just not stable for long periods of time. So we knew that when we were going to launch a growth factors product, we would need to figure out these cold storage logistics. And we wanted to get really high quality growth factors. And that's so important, as you know, because when growth factors are in the right concentration and are high quality, they're incredible for anti-aging. But if you get growth factors from sick cells, dead cells, or they're just kind of in the right ratio, or you get inflammatory ones, they'll actually age you faster. So we get our growth factors from this really amazing biotechnology company out in Texas called Hope Biosciences. Their conditioned media, so it's stem cell conditioned media, which is where we get our growth factors from, is currently their products are in a bunch of clinical trials. Like they're doing work on crush injury, burns. They're an official partner with the U.S. military. Like they're legit, and it helps that their CEO is also a Hopkins alum. So we buy our conditioned media from them. It's shipped cold to our formulator. And then it's shipped to us also on ice. And then we fill, seal, put into capsules, and we freeze it. And when we ship it to customers, we ship it with ice packs, and it's 2-day shipping so that the temperature fluctuations aren't too great, like they don't get too hot in there. And we ask that when you receive it, you use it, you put it in your fridge if you're going to use it right away, or you put it in your freezer if you're going to store it for longer. And that's really to preserve the integrity of these molecules. And we've done third-party assays. So they're called enzyme-linked immunosorbent assays, ELISAs. And we do that to basically guarantee that when our growth factors go through this entire process, they're still going to be stable. They're still going to be present in high enough concentrations, and they're going to be biologically active. And so that's kind of what we can guarantee with this process.
Basically, what you're saying is if these growth factors were in a store and placed on a shelf, just they were on a shelf, yours, and they were there for a month and I came in and bought them, they would not be good, correct?
No, they wouldn't. I mean, it's a protein. So, okay, so I'll give you an example. There's one FDA approved drug that contains growth factors. It's called Regranex, and people can look it up. And it contains a synthetic version or recombinant version of a platelet-derived growth factor. And so this is a really stable version of this growth factor that's synthetically made. So it doesn't matter if it's synthetic or not. And it's in like a lyophilized powder in a thick like emollient solution, which is just about as stable as you can get it. The whole process is FDA approved, and that drug is still stored in the fridge. So, right. And then even if you go to Sigma Aldrich's website, so they make epidermal growth factor, they'll tell you straight on their website, this is good in the fridge for a month, and it's good in the freezer for up to 6 to 12 months.
So I can't help but take away I can't help but take away that the bottom line is growth factors are incredibly unstable, it sounds like. Yep. And that at room temperature, they are not good for very long.
That's correct. They're good for maybe a couple weeks.
Okay. Interesting. That is really, really interesting. Okay. So can you tell me if the growth factors that you source, are they vegan? Do we know the source of the growth factor? I mean, are they human derived? I know that a lot of people will ask questions about, aborted babies and stuff like that. They just want clarity on that kind of stuff, that it's just definitive, no, this doesn't come from anything like that kind of thing. If you could just address that.
Yeah, of course. So our growth factors come from, they're basically conditioned media is what we use, which is the exudate of stem cells. And we get our stem cells from healthy adult donors. So they're compensated. It's all ethical. This is not a HeLa situation. And they are screened. So these are donors where you screen them for, any illnesses. And then independently from the vendor, Droplette does its own set of assays on the conditioned media. So we guarantee that it has the growth factors you want. It has like EGF, it has transforming growth factor, it has pro-collagen, it has all of that good stuff in there. And we've quantified it. And I think that's actually the first time, like I haven't seen anything else like that on the market where that's been fully quantified and characterized. And I think that's sort of our pharma backgrounds coming into play here.
And as far as being vegan, none of your things are tested on animals, correct?
No, our formulations are not tested on animals.
Okay, cool. We can't move on from growth factors, certainly without talking about the price. And I think that I do think that it was a shocker for a lot of people. And I think that part of that, and I mean, I'm just going to put my kind of 2 cents or my take on it, is that they're really used to, the growth factors that are on the market that maybe are between $100 and $200 or that kind of thing. So even though we just went through everything that you just went through, if you could just give people a little bit of a breakdown when we're talking about price as to why it is that expensive.
Yeah. And it's a good question and a completely valid one. So the raw material, the conditioned media is really expensive. I mentioned before, if you're buying it in small batches, it's about $17 per milliliter. And then you have to pay to get it shipped cold or frozen to the formulator. They have to store it frozen. So there's a clear upcharge on that. They ship it to us frozen, once again, an upcharge. And then when we ship it to you frozen, if you've ever received frozen food in the mail, like what those delivery charges look like.
Right.
So that's a big part of it. It was really making sure, paying the premium on the ingredient because we believe the quality ingredient is worth it. And then also making sure that we've created that infrastructure around cold storage logistics to make sure it was available and bioactive when it got to you.
I think that something that's important for people to really understand is there's just nothing else out there like this. This is not the same as anything else that's on the market. And it's not just because it goes into a device. The actual product itself, even if you were to put it in a bottle that you shipped on ice or whatever, it's not the same as anything else that's on the market as far as its efficacy, as far as it's actually going to work and it is live or, active and gets to the customer active. I have to tell you, and you know this because we've had conversations, obviously privately had conversations, that it's pretty enlightening to learn all of this stuff. And as somebody who considers myself an educated consumer, it really has it's opened my eyes a little bit to growth factors in cosmeceuticals. So I'm sure we'll have more discussions about that, and there'll probably be a blog coming, but yeah, that's just incredible. I appreciate you addressing that. I know that there was a big buzz about that. And something I do want to ask you also though, something that I said to people when it first launched was that if you don't want to use it twice a day, obviously I understand that that's a lot of money.
Right,
It's
right.
a great augment to in-office laser procedures. I know that Nancy and I, when we did our Elicor treatments, the difference between our healing time with and without droplet growth factors was like no comparison. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. I also think it's fantastic, used when microneedling or anything like that. So do you agree that a way to kind of offset the fact that it's so expensive is to use it as a treatment? Although it sounds like you only want to keep it in the fridge for what, 1 month? So you do want to use it up. Are you able to buy only 1 pack, or do you have to buy 28?
It's sold in 28 packs. So we currently sell it like in the 2, because the idea would be if you're using it for a treatment, you pre-treat your skin with it, and then you do the post-treatment. We think that the combination of like pre-priming your skin would be really helpful to have those high levels of growth factors when you go into treatment.
Which completely makes sense. Would you consider, or have you, given the feedback, would you consider selling them in like half packs in the future?
I think we definitely consider it. I think the reason we didn't want to do it out the gate comes down to efficacy. Like, it just takes a while to see growth factors have an impact. So our concern was, okay, if we do 14 and then people use it and it's just not long enough to see a result, we don't want people to be disappointed.
Right. Which is funny, because even though you would be spending less money, you really aren't getting your money's worth, because you're not getting the efficacy, because you're not getting fully treated. So that makes complete sense to me too. I do think though, it's something to consider, because I think that people could use it around a monthly microneedling treatment, and one maybe in that situation, maybe that might be enough capsules. So I'm just putting that bug in your bonnet.
Just a quick point of clarification. So you can store it in your freezer for much longer. It's just if it's in your fridge, you just want to use it within a month or so.
Got it. Okay. So what is the feedback that you've gotten so far about the growth factors? Like how are people telling you that they're using them? And, what have you gotten back from people after it's been on the market for just a little while?
So it's been funny feedback. It's been, your product is really expensive and I wanted to hate it, but it's been amazing for my skin and now I'm addicted. So it's been a lot of that. We've had people who this is all anecdotal, of course, like we do our own studies and, we can sort of quantify those results and say, you see this improvement in this or this parameter. But anecdotally, we've had people who've said, I've had this scar since I was a child, or this like mark on my face since I was a child, and I've used your product for 4 weeks and it's gone, which has been incredibly just heartwarming to hear. Similarly, we've heard feedback about scars and just sort of people seeing this big improvement in their under eyes and like those sort of fine lines around there, which is not something you can really treat with an in-office procedure.
Right.
It's really delicate skin. You don't really want to inject if you don't have to under there. And people are seeing that impact with growth factors.
That's really cool, because truthfully, the under eyes, it's hard even for surgeons to address. I mean, obviously there's lower blepharoplasty, but other than that, it is a really tricky area. So anything that we can do at home that can help is amazing. So we have had questions about the growth factors and skin cancer. Can you address, the potential negative effects, or what your recommendations are if someone does have a history of skin cancer as far as using the growth factors?
I would say talk to your dermatologist about it. I think that's probably the best advice we can give. And if you're worried about it, you should be cautious. Skin cancer is not something to mess around with. While we have seen no evidence and truly don't think that there's anything here that will exacerbate it or cause it, with things like that, you should always exercise caution.
For sure. And, I always, the skin cancer thing, it's kind of, no matter what, I always think that's just a conversation with your doctor, because just like skincare or anything else, medical history is so individual that there's always going to be a cautionary answer to just talk to your doctor personally. Yeah,
Right.
definitely good advice. Okay, so the next question is, tell us about the connected device, how the app works with existing devices. What if this person said, what if mine is a year or more old? And what is the real benefit with the turbo, et cetera? And when will the Android app be coming out? And I just throw all of those at you at once.
Okay, so for the app, it's compatible with every version of Droplette that we've put out there. And a big part of our philosophy is when we innovate on things or we come out with new products, we don't want to leave anyone behind. And the last people we'd want to leave behind were our early supporters. So it's fully backwards compatible. So the app does a few things. You can talk to an esthetician, which we talked about before. So one of our in-house estheticians, totally free, and they'll give you great skincare advice. You can, track your own usage, and we're continuing to update and add features to it. And probably the most exciting thing is you can actually personalize a device to you. So we have different modes, and these initially kind of came out of this discussion we had around people are buying our capsules. They're spending a lot of money on capsules, and we want to give you more than one use for them. So you can do, with collagen, you can do your whole face and you could do a great treatment with that. Or you can really target your under eyes and get like that really specific, hyper targeted and quick efficacy product as well. Same thing for acne. We have a blemish mode coming out pretty soon, which lets you do a targeted treatment to like a blackhead or whitehead or cystic pimple. And some of the before and afters we've done in our trials have been pretty incredible with like just 24 hours later with it resolving. And we have like a special mode for growth factors because growth factors are large molecules, so to improve that penetration profile as well. And probably our newest one, which people seem to really like so far, is what we call 17-volt lips. It's basically a 1-minute lip plumping treatment at home.
Yeah. So in the Android app, when can people expect to see that? And if you have heard of any workarounds, I'm totally baiting you on this one. If you've heard of any workarounds for people while they wait, and maybe if you could explain, to people why you rolled out to Apple or why you didn't wait to roll it all out together, et cetera, so people can understand your position.
Right. So we did iOS Apple first because the majority of our customers are on Apple. We do have plans to roll out an Android version. It's in the works right now, and that's going to come out really early next year. And we have a whole team that's working super hard to get that out as quickly as possible. But one thing that is kind of in the ethos of Droplette is once we have technology, we want to put it out there really quickly. Like we want our users to benefit from it. So once we knew that we could actually control the device with the app, it just made sense to put it out there and let the people who could use it benefit right away. We also do something similar with modes. So for example, we put things out on the app in beta mode even before they're officially released. We've done that with our under eyes. It was in beta for quite some time. We'll be doing that with our blemish mode relatively soon. So once we've tested like safety and initial efficacy, we're just going to put it out there and let people use it as they want to. And then we did create a little bit of a workaround if you are an Android user but have an Apple user in your life. So one of the things that we actually had a lot of debate on internally when we were designing this was when you set Droplette into a mode, does it revert back to the original mode, like the default mode, or does it stay in the mode you set it in? And we ultimately decided to keep it on the mode that you're setting it in for right now, because if you bought a Droplette and you really only want to use it in under eye mode and you have somebody in your life who has an Apple product, you can download the app on their device, put it into the mode you want it to, and it'll stay in that mode.
That's so cool. And it's funny, in the group, somebody recommended that and I was like, that's so smart. And the person that they recommended it to said, oh my gosh, my husband has an Apple. I will just use it, and go ahead and do that. I think that that's a great workaround. I do think that it's important that people understand that it wasn't about leaving Android out. It was about, rolling things out, not to mention, and this is from my perspective without knowing, I imagine it's pretty expensive too. I mean, all of this is so expensive and you're a small business and it's, to me, I always think, well, sometimes you can't do everything at once. You have to roll, so that you can afford to actually do the things that you want to do. And I'm sure some of that came down to business decisions.
It definitely did. I think the other thing, and this is feedback we've heard from other companies, is if you roll out 2 apps and there's bugs on both apps, like on both versions, Android and Apple, you're simultaneously fixing it. If you do one and you get it out there, you get it right, it's running smoothly, it's much easier to take that version of it and then translate it to the other platform. And that was a big part of what was guiding our philosophy there too.
Okay, so this next question is about the new lip product. This is Droplette Lip Plump, contains peppermint. Did you do sensitivity testing on a wide audience?
We did testing on a fairly robust cohort, I would say. We did not have any adverse reactions in our testing, so no one was overly sensitive to the peppermint. It's also at a fairly low concentration, but if you have a known peppermint allergy, then you should definitely not use this.
So 40%, you say that you can get a 40%, more volume when you use the lip. Can you kind of elaborate on how you get that data and just the lip formulation in general?
Yeah, so the lip formulation it's kind of a cool story. So we got the idea for it because we had one of our newest team members on the marketing side, just joined. This was a few months ago, and I took her out to lunch and I was like, tell me about what you want to do in your job. And one question I always ask people is like, what is a product that we don't have that we should have? And she said, lip plumping. And I said, really? Like, do people still do that? And she said, yes, and kind of gave me this look like I was crazy. So we started looking it up and she was exactly right. Lip plumping is something that people really genuinely care about. And I think it's so funny because it wasn't on my radar, probably because I'm Indian and it's not a huge thing in the Indian community. But it's definitely a thing. So we knew that we could do lip plumping years ago, but we just kind of put it off to the side because we didn't think anyone would be interested in it. And this kind of reinvigorated us to go ahead and pursue that. So the way we quantify lip plumping is we use this software called ImageJ. We take photos of people. So we have our standardized photo thing. We use Avizia in certain offices, and we have there's another brand that does something very similar. So we take all those photos and we run them through ImageJ, and then we measure the lip height. So we do bottom to top, and then basically these vertical heights, and we compare them, and it does pixel to pixel, and we can quantify those results. So that's where we're getting the 40% from. That was kind of the average we saw in our studies and our user groups and early sort of mini clinicals.
So funny thing about this is that I think that the lip plumping thing is definitely still a thing. That's for sure. But I also think for women, as we get older and our lips start to deflate a little bit, it's not necessarily that we're looking to have huge lips or anything like that. It's just a little bit more youthful for our lips to plump back up, as in not big, just as in hydrated and juicy and looking like they did when they were younger. And so to me, this lip plumper it can reach the age of people who are into lip plumping. And then it also will be really, really great for those of us who are noticing that our lips are deflating as we get older. So to me, it's a really cool product that, I think that's neat. That is a really funny story. It's funny too, the things that we don't realize are a thing, as we go along. And then you realize that really is actually a really big thing. I think it's actually a bigger thing than you even realize it is, because it's going to appeal to a whole market of people who are a lot older than you that you don't even know until you get there, something that you want, So I think it's amazing. I was probably as excited about this as I was the growth factors, which says a lot. I mean, it just was like, oh, that's awesome. That is so cool. And so practical that you can just use it and see, some immediate gratification kind of thing.
Yeah. The other thing that we realized, so sorry, this makes us sound a little unhinged, but we spend a lot of time scouring plastic surgery websites and running all of those images through ImageJ as well. So we were looking at, these really great centers where they do lip enhancements. And what you see on average is people want between a 20 and 50% enhancement on their lip volume. People And that's what we consider like good plastic surgery or good work done, where it looks super natural, but you just look like yourself, but enhanced, or like yourself, but elevated. And that's kind of the effect that we're going for with these.
This question is from the Facebook group, and it is, what about a points program or some type of discounts offered every now and then? So they're basically asking if that's something that you maybe would consider.
A loyalty and rewards program is on our roadmap for next year. We will be releasing something that we hope people will find cool in a couple of weeks, which is, if you are a Droplette customer, historically you'd have to be on a subscription to get anything. We are releasing just like single box purchases that you can do as add-ons to your order through the portal. And we're hoping that will make it a little bit less friction for our users.
Question that came through also is, do capsules expire?
They have about a 2-year expiration date from point of purchase.
Okay.
That being said, our growth factors are a little bit faster. I believe it's about 6 months.
Okay, I have another one that is directly from the Facebook group, and I'm just going to read it verbatim. It says, my issue was I contacted customer service why my collagen and retinol was leaking out of the capsules, and they asked me how they were stored, and I took a pic of them, and they said that because I took them out of the cardboard holder that comes inside the box, that they wouldn't replace them. For me, it was easier for me to use them. I was not a happy camper. This was not disclosed, or I would not have taken the capsules out of the cardboard holder to keep them upright. So I suppose that's kind of a question in a statement. So right. I guess the question is, was that your policy? If it was, has that changed? What would you say to that customer?
I would say that you should have gotten your capsules replaced. That's not our policy. And a lot of our customers, including like Droplette employees who use capsules, don't store them in the cardboard container. They take them out, they put them in pouches. So if your capsules are leaking, please reach out to us. We'll make it right with you.
Perfect. I think that that's the overarching theme that, we're going to hear again and again, is that if there was an issue, no matter what, dating all the way back to the beginning of Droplette, that it sounds like you are willing to make it right.
Yes. And we're eager to do so.
Okay, so we got a question from the Facebook group, and essentially what they're asking is if you will ever support third-party capsules. I think that this is kind of, now that I think about it, a la Keurig, you know what I mean? Like Keurig has their capsules, and then you have the ability to buy, generic, if you will, or make your own or whatever. And so this person is saying that they were going to buy the Droplette at the recent Prime sale, but then she looks at the ingredients in the serums, and they just won't work for her for whatever reason. And so I think that this might be a great opportunity for you to, revisit the reason why the formulations that you have go specifically with your device and elaborate on that.
Yeah, happy to. So Droplette's designed to get things into your skin, which means we have to be really cautious about the active ingredients or all the ingredients in there, because you don't want to deliver anything into your skin that would perhaps not be good for it. And that's why we've created it as a closed system where it's our own formulations in our capsules. That being said, we are open to partnerships. So if there are other brands that have cool ingredients or great formulations and want to work with us, let us know. We would love to have those conversations.
Yeah, see, now that seems to be kind of like the bridge idea, is that if you can still control not only the efficacy, but also the safety profile of the product. I think that probably, in my mind, would be where it all comes down to. If you can't control the safety of what is actually getting into the skin, you're never going to sign off on it. That's not going to be okay with you. And that makes a lot of sense. But that's super exciting, because given the whole situation with OneSkin, which is super exciting, the idea that there may be other, if anybody's listening, I think that, gosh, I'm going to start thinking about who, because anything that you can or that you want to get into your skin, this would be the way to do it. So there could be some exciting partnerships down the road.
Right. I also think it's so interesting because with skincare, if you've used a brand for a long time and this set of ingredients works really well for my specific skin, we want to support that as well. So,
okay. So some of these are going to be from the Facebook group. I'm just going to read through them. We're going to start with, when will you be shipping to other regions? Europe and Australia are the most requested in the group.
we would love to ship to Europe and Australia. We're currently working through what some of the regulatory requirements would be for those areas. So while I can't give you an exact timeline, I can say that it is something that we are we definitely plan to do and hope to have an update on soon.
Okay, so the next question we actually get in a few, I'm going to consolidate this because we got it a couple different ways.
Yeah.
Basically, people would love to know if you're ever going to have any deals on capsules, sales on capsules, coupon codes for capsules, buy one, get one free, anything. People want to know, is there ever any future plans to offer any kind of discount on capsules? Maybe not ongoing, but will you plan to have sales or anything like that? We get that question a lot.
It's a really good question. We haven't done it so far, but we are planning next year on offering bundling. So if you right now, in an effort to be more eco-friendly, we would love to be able to ship you a few months of capsules at a given time. It reduces the carbon footprint for us as a brand or as a business, and we would offer a discount on that. So we're working on those plans right now, and we'll definitely have those live fairly soon. And the other thing that we do offer, it's not so much a a discount, but more of a flexibility tool, is we will let customers purchase just one-off capsule boxes through their customer portal. And that's going to go live in a few weeks as well.
Perfect. Okay, so this question is somebody asked, and I'm going to read it verbatim. She says, I'd love to know if there are any adverse effects from using the product long term. Is there any way infusing this mist for years and years can deplete your collagen or stretch things out more? And also, I'm just going to add in, because I know somebody else asked this, if you could please address again the inhaling the mist, because I know that I saw that somewhere in the group. And so it's a concern that people still, maybe they missed it in the beginning, that you've done testing, et cetera. If you could address the long-term effects on our skin, and then also the inhaling the mist.
Yeah, so with inhaling the mist, we've done cascade impaction studies on it, which are kind of the gold standard to demonstrate that things aren't getting into your lungs. And we've been able to demonstrate that it's not. You don't need to worry about it. We don't recommend making an effort to inhale or put the device against your open mouth, because we don't think that'll be a pleasant experience, but it's not dangerous. And then I think, just as a quick little follow-up to that, we have had people say, well, what about other accelerants? Like, we've heard that hairspray, for example, can be dangerous. And the big difference is a lot of those canned products, products in cans, work because there's a lot of pressurized air behind them, or there's chemicals that basically expand, right? When they hit oxygen, that drives it, and those chemicals can be bad. Our mechanism of action with the device is completely electrical or mechanical. So you don't have any of those propeller chemicals in there as well that can be damaging.
Right.
But sorry, to address your first question.
Yes. Do you want me to repeat the first question?
Yeah.
I know I threw two at you at once. Okay. Basically, this person is asking if there are any, if there are any adverse effects. I'll read it again verbatim. She said, I'd love to know if there are any adverse effects from using the product long term. Is there any way infusing this mist for years and years can deplete your collagen or stretch things out more, so that if you stop, you'd be worse off than when you started?
It's a really interesting question. And the answer is it's actually quite the opposite. And that's because the way our collagen works, let's just use that as an example, is you have that immediate benefit around plumping, and then you get that, what we call it's called hit and run. So you have that immediate effect, and then you have the lagging effect. And the lagging effect is the collagen goes into your skin. Collagen's a really interesting protein, which we've talked about before. It's those repeating proline, hydroxyproline, and then a third amino acid repeats. And so when it breaks down, you get the building blocks, so your body can more effectively build more collagen. And so collagen depletion kind of happens year on year. And by reinfusing your skin with it and creating those building blocks so your skin can more efficiently do it, you're going to end up a lot better off, let's say, a decade on, than you would have otherwise.
I think probably the type of question is almost like if you're addicted to this and then you stop, is there some adverse, as it like a la, a camphor lip product, and then you stop and your lips are really ultimately more dry, where it's exactly what you said. You're actually building yourself. If you stop, all that you've done is built yourself this beautiful foundation,
Right.
but there will be no sliding backwards because cold turkey. There's no cold turkey with this.
No, there isn't.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. This person wants to know if you can use collagen and retinol back to back, or is there a sit time? Should you wait between the mists?
You should probably wait about 10 seconds, 15 seconds. You can like pat whatever leftover product is into your skin and then do the next one, but no real wait time.
Something that that is just kind of an interesting topic, and something that I know that is important to many people in my group, is hair loss.
Right.
Is there anything in the works, any innovations that you can think of, maybe in relation with the growth factors or anything like that, where Droplette could possibly address, hair loss, scalp issues, etc.?
I think there is. So growth factors have been shown, not by us, but by like multiple other groups, to be really interesting candidates for hair restoration. So there's some cool clinicals out there. And obviously we have a growth factors product. Our device right now in its current form factor isn't optimized for scalp delivery, but it should be able to get it into the scalp in the same way. So right now we've actually had a few customers who've reached out about it. Like they wanted to know if they could use their growth factors for their hair. And we said, right now we don't have data on it, but if you do it, like, let us know how it goes. And it's actually gotten to a point now where we're now opening up a list for existing customers who maybe want to try it for hair. And we're thinking about launching a Droplet Lab study with it. So if you are interested in that, reach out, let us know, and we might include you in our study.
Thank you so much for taking the time to answer some of these hard questions. I always enjoy every conversation that I have with you. I was a little bit, nervous to ask some of the harder questions, but I really, really appreciate you taking the time. I know that people are going to appreciate that from you. And as always, this was just an enlightening, wonderful conversation. And I just appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great, and hope to have many more of these conversations in the future.